Yandere Simulator is certainly a game that exists. Hey everyone, CCG15 here, and I know I don't do videos like this often because I have a very terrible microphone setup, and I apologize in advance because of that, but I just wanted to talk about Yandere Simulator and about how it is something that exists. For those who don't know, Yandere Simulator is a game that came out in 2014 that has taken the internet by storm. I was 8 years old when this game came out, and while I don't exactly remember at what point in time I first saw it, I do remember watching iHas Cupquake's videos on the game, and her music video on it, but after a while I just forgot about it until I started seeing posts about it recently and decided to reignite my interest in the game. When I was younger, a lot of the more disturbing aspects flew under my radar because I was young and naive and stuff, but now that I'm older, I definitely see these disgusting patterns more clearly. And it makes me feel bad for the game because it's a game that has so much potential, but it's just been so tainted by the developer. And speaking of the developer, I won't be saying too much about Yandere Dev because I really don't care to do so, as so many others have talked about him a lot, so if you're interested in what a trash human he is, go look up some videos on the matter. I just want to talk about the game, and honestly, Yandere feels like the miraculous ladybug of video games. Both of them have good and interesting concepts, but they were just executed in a poorly written way, and just both pieces of media feel heavily stained by their creators' horrible traits. And honestly, it makes me feel bad for pieces of media like that, because if those things had been created by literally anyone else, they could have been really great things, but because they weren't, they're not. Back on topic with Yandere, this game has been in development since 2014, meaning this game has been in development for over a decade and it is nowhere near completion yet. Now, on the surface, it's not a problem, as people might say, oh, he's just taking his time with it or something. And while I could say that's a fair statement to make, until you realize that this man just wastes his time and resources making excuses and creating unnecessary things that we do not need. I mean, seriously, there's so many extra details in this game. Also, when I say game, it's really just a demo as it's still in production, that could have been implemented after the main premise has been completed. The main premise of this game is that you are a yandere, duh, and yet you must eliminate 10 rivals over the course of 10 weeks to have your senpai all to yourself. This alone does sound kinda interesting, but it's so poorly executed that it just feels half-baked. In fact, half-baked is something I can use to describe almost everything about this game. Not just its premise, but its characters, story, and gameplay. The developer is just so fixated on adding so many little details that easily could have been added after all the rivals were programmed into the game. Currently, there's two-ish rivals in the game, Osana Najimi and Amai Odayaka. And I say two-ish because I've seen pieces of the third rival, Kazana Shinobu, in the game, but I don't know how much of the game she's actually included in right now, plus I don't know how much of Amai's inclusions are implemented either. To me, it feels like what he's doing is adding things to distract us from focusing on the fact that the game isn't finished, as well as trying to stay relevant, which I feel isn't as easy as he thinks it is. I mean, he's literally so desperate that he's literally making us play Spot the Difference between textures in a room he updated between builds. To me, this is like dressing up a mannequin with various amounts of accessories in an attempt to hide the fact that you forgot to put clothes on it first. And while there's nothing initially wrong with having things like Easter eggs and pointless minigames that have nothing to do with the game, as these things can serve to make the world feel more alive, it does become a problem when these things were implemented first. There's dozens of unnecessary things like DDR, an in-game AR game, plenty of Easter egg characters, and stuff like that. All of these things were already in the game before Osana was. Osana was added 4 or 5 years into the game after all these things were, which is just so backwards. There's also so many other issues with this game that's just difficult to talk about in one video, so I won't. So after seeing a lot of YouTubers rewriting / redrawing the world and characters of this game, I decided to throw my own hat into the ring and come up with my own ideas for this concept. Has this idea been done before? Yes. Do I care? No, because this is my video and I can do whatever I want. So without further ado, let's get started. Before I get started with the characters, I'd like to talk about their school uniforms and how I redesigned the female students' uniforms using Midori Gurin as my model. So, I'll be honest, I actually kind of like the original uniforms the students have, but as many people have said, they don't really fit in with the theme of them all being at high school. So I decided to sort of combine elements of their original uniforms to parts of the uniforms featured in DDLC, as I feel they more closely embody what Japanese high school uniforms are supposed to look like. That makes sense, right? Anyway, I kept their shirts white, but I changed the sleeves and gave them a vest that's meant to mimic a blazer, kinda like the one uniform Jiro wears in MHA. I swapped out their sailor bows for small red bow ties and made their pleated skirts longer, reaching up to their knees rather than the middle of their thighs. Now, as you can see, I made the vests gray, and that's because I wanted to tie the female uniforms more closely to the male ones, as in my opinion, the uniforms of the males and females felt too different from each other, which made it difficult to tell that they came from the same school. At the high school I went to, while our uniforms were rather basic, as it was just a polo shirt with pants, everyone wore the same pants, but just the color of the polo differed among males and females. So I kinda wanted to sort of incorporate that here as well. Also, all the girls wear shorts under their skirts. I know this is a minor thing, but it's mainly to avoid panty shots. Panty shots, which are taking pictures of girls' panties, is something I shouldn't even need to begin to explain why that's not okay. But it also bothers me because practically every single girl wears a skirt as part of her uniform, but you're telling me that not one of them wears shorts underneath? No, I don't buy that. So yeah, this is one way to avoid making panty shots a thing. Honestly, there's so many things with panties in this game, it just makes me feel like that one crowd facepalm meme. You know the one. I would also like to talk about how this game seems to normalize a lot of gross perverted behavior, but that's for another time. Anyway, I also wanted to slightly redesign Midori as well. I know a lot of people start by redesigning and rewriting Taro, Ayano, and even the rivals, but I feel like they neglect a lot of the background characters as a result. I mean, when you look on YouTube, there's countless videos of people redesigning those characters, but hardly any redesigns for the rest of the students, which I feel is unfair. To me, they're just as important as our main characters, as not only do they fill out the school, but they also provide benefits, and I kind of feel bad that they get rather neglected, not only by the creator, but also by us, the community, as well. So I kinda like to work backwards and start with the background characters and do the main characters last. I'm also gonna keep their names, as I kinda suck at coming up with Japanese names, but the characters' names, while kinda stupid and cringe, are kinda funny to me. Like how Midori's name literally just means green. That's kinda funny, and I feel it brings a level of comedic heart to this game. Because, let's all be honest, this game works best as a meme game. Yes, it has some serious elements, but it works best when it doesn't take itself too seriously. So, Midori's original design, while iconic, it's also rather plain. She's just like Taro and Ayano, but her color is green instead of black. This kinda made it challenging for me to redesign her, as I didn't want to change too little and make it seem like all I did was simply draw her in my style, but I also didn't want to change too much, and then she would no longer resemble the original source material. That's often a problem I have with redesigning characters in general, but maybe that's just a me problem. Anyway, so for Midori's redesign, I decided to keep her green hair, eyes, and socks, as they're rather iconic, but I made her eyes a different shade of green. I wanted to make her eyes lighter than her hair so it doesn't feel too similar. I kept her original green color but added a darker shade at the ends to make it less monotone. I also tried to give her a more unique eye shape, as a majority of the characters in this game suffer from same body/same face syndrome. So I will be trying to fix that by giving characters different body types. I didn't give one for Midori, as I figured my usual skinny body type would work well for her. I also took away the red accessories on her phone and replaced them with a red scarf tied around her neck like a necktie. And I gave her a green headband to break up all the green in her head. I wasn't sure whether to make it red or white, but I settled on white to keep her color palette simplified. I also added the headband because I wanted to add a head accessory, as I feel a lot of the characters don't wear head accessories, and if they do, it's because it's a club accessory and not just because. I also changed her hair, making the side parts shorter and making her bangs off-center and in balance, as well as giving her a floating ahoge. This is something rather common in my designs, where characters have floating ahoges because I think it adds detail to the hair. For her socks, I did sort of try to make one sock more scrunched than the other because I wanted some sock variety in the school beyond just thigh highs, knee length, and leg warmers. And I changed the shoes to those shoes that the characters wear with the colored toe part. I personally like it a lot more than just the standard school shoes, as well as, once again, keeping the color palette simplified. Man, this was difficult, because I really don't do redesigns that often, and even just creating a redesign for Midori was tough, and she's not even a main character. I'm sure I'll get better with practice, but for now, this is all I have. But either way, I'm still not 100% sure if I, did it right. I don't know if I made enough changes, or if I should have changed more. Should I have added more things, or taken things away? Does it still feel different enough, but recognizable, or is it too similar to the original? I guess you'll have to let me know in the comments. But I feel like I've rambled enough about her design. Now I'd like to talk about her personality and story. Basically, Midori is a joke character who somehow knows she's in a video game and asks dumb questions a lot. Plus, she's also the personification of all of Yandere's fans and that gets killed off a lot. Now, those are the bare bones of her story, but already there's a massive plot hole. How did Midori even figure out she's not a real person and instead just a character in a video game? It's the same case with Monica from DDLC, where it's never explained how she's aware of her existence in a video game, and nobody else is. Plus, unlike Monica, you'd never even know Midori knew this if you didn't go digging around for it. Plus, I low-key kind of feel like Midori isn't just a representation of the audience when she asks her quote-unquote dumb questions, but they're actually really valid questions that Yandere never follows up on. I also think she's his scapegoat. I mean, there's plenty of moments where Yandere stabs Midori to death, which leads me to believe that he's not very fond of her presence and just takes his anger out on her. Though, as I said, since she's meant to represent us, I feel like this is him lashing out at us for how many questions we ask. So it's time for a bit of a rewrite. So I've taken away Midori's knowledge of being self-aware. I know it's a major part of her character, but it literally makes no sense. Plus, it's not super important to Yansim's story, unlike Monica. So instead of her being self-aware, she's described as a person who always has her head in the clouds. She often asks dumb questions, but not because she wants to be annoying, but because she's genuinely curious about the world and everything in it. Though, when she was younger, her classmates thought she was just mocking them for asking so many dumb questions as well as being rich. Side note, since Academy High School is very prestigious, and most prestigious schools are rather expensive, a lot of the characters who attend Academy are rather rich, since it makes no sense that only a handful of people are, if this is a prestigious school. There are a handful of kids who aren't rich, but just got into the school through scholarships, but the majority of the student body is rich. Okay, side note over. Because of this, Midori became more closed off and quiet rather than her usual outgoing self, preferring to spend all her time on her phone rather than talking to people like she used to. That is, until she got into Academy. She thought it was going to be more of the same until she noticed some students playing a video game in an old classroom. She felt curious, so she entered. Inside, she saw two boys playing games on some laptops. Curious, she asked them what they were playing. One boy with spiky black hair and red tips noticed her and answered her question with a friendly tone, and invited her to play with them. Midori was surprised. Usually nobody ever wanted to be around her, so having someone personally invite her to play video games with them was a rather pleasant surprise. She made friends with the two boys and they invited her to join their club, and she happily agreed. They gave her a red scarf, telling her it'll let others know that she's a part of their club, and she said she could wear it anywhere she wanted. Smiling, she agreed and tied it around her neck. The boys then told her about the rules of the club and about how she can't be in more than one club at once, and that if she ever decides to quit the club, she'll never be let back in. Midori looks a bit confused and asks them why. They just say they aren't sure, just that's how the rules work. Midori contemplates this internally, but deduces that as long as she stays in the club, she'll finally have some friends to hang out with. Over the next few weeks, the club gained more members, and they all seemed rather fond of Midori and her overly curious questions. Even the club leader, despite his gruff personality. They were always surprised about how many questions she could come up with over basically something as simple as a pair of scissors or a box cutter. But they still found her endearing. And yeah, I think that's enough about Midori's backstory and how she joined the gaming club. I know it's not super important to the story, but it's still fun fleshing out these very vanilla characters. Now, another change I've made is that each character has their own backpack, and the backpacks actually look like backpacks, because their current backpacks just look like purses. I use the backpack Midoriya has in MHA because I'm honestly more convinced that MHA represents Japanese culture better than Yensim, since MHA is created by a Japanese person. Each character has their own backpack design and phone case that matches the theme of that character. And yeah, I know while I was drawing Midori, I just made her phone case green with no details, but I've changed it later. So for Midori, I gave her clovers and an M for Midori. I didn't add anything to her socks because I didn't want to overcomplicate the design, but I think I might add a few clovers later. You guys let me know what you think. Lastly, I'm giving her a task because she currently doesn't have one. So for her task, she'd say, "Yeah, actually there is something I need help with. After school, I like listening to music while I study, but because I study in the library, I bring a pair of earbuds. Though I lost them recently. I've looked everywhere, but I can't find them. Would you mind looking for them for me?" Then you can decide if you accept or refuse this task. If you refuse, she'd say, "Oh well, sorry for asking. I guess I'll keep looking by myself." But if you accept, she'd say, "You'd look for them for me? Thank you. Let me know if you find them." To complete this task, you'd have to go to the gaming club and look under the table with all the computers and bring it back to her. Once you return them, she says, "So they were in the gaming club? Whoops, I guess I forgot I left them there. Thanks for your help." And the task will be complete. And yeah, I think that's all for this video. Man, this was a long one, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I wanted to show off the other students' uniforms, but this video is already long enough, so I made this diagram as a point of reference. As you can see, I made the standard uniforms similar to each other, so it's easier to tell that they both come from the same school. The gym uniforms are exactly the same because of my own personal experience, and because I don't understand why the girls have this blue underwear thing. Now, for the student council uniforms, you'll just have to wait for another video for that. But for now, that's all from me. See you guys!